Thank you, everyone, for joining us today. Since we're just right at the 9 o'clock hour, we'll wait just another minute to allow other people to get in as they're all shuffling to get in, and then we'll get started. All right, let's go ahead and get started for the day. We've got a great presentation. I'm excited about what we're going to hear today. As you can see, we're going to look at cybersecurity in a new light, IT consideration for cybersecurity and connected lighting systems. So excited, we've got two panelists that will be speaking today besides myself, but we're going to go ahead and get going. And hope today you'll take away some key learnings from today and just know a little bit more about connected lighting and cybersecurity. So thanks for all coming today and joining us. And today's session, we're going to, one of the things we would like to do is make sure you understand and get it. Hopefully everybody can get into the chat box if not, at the end of the presentation, we will unmute so you can get on and ask a question if you need to, if the chat box is not available to you at the very end. And of course, we just like to put in there that we'll be mentioning various technologies today, or maybe even a brand name. Or not endorse anyone, but sometimes it's just easier to have the conversation when we bring in some resources from some of the products or other organizations. So my name is Dan Kuhl, and thanks for joining us again. I'm a senior lighting specialist at Evergreen Consulting Group. I have over 30 years experience working in sales management, and training. I'm a certified trainer and specialized in technology applications. I've been focused on the last several years or last few years on luminaire level lighting control, and which has been pretty exciting. I really think that's the future of lighting equipment. I think a lot of on this call feel the same way. So now I'm excited to introduce my co-presenters who are really going to get into the meat of the information today. So we have with us Levin Knock. He's a senior technical manager at DLC, Design Lights Consortium. Levin is a senior technical manager there, leading the development of innovative policies for the network lighting control and Luna, which is our outdoor program, and responsible for launching the DLC's effort in exploring cybersecurity way back in 2017. He holds a PhD in biomedical engineering from Duke University. Levin's career spans research on energy efficiency, emerging technologies when he was at Bonneville Power Administration, and he brings a deep commitment to addressing climate change through his work on energy saving initiatives. So welcome, Levin. Looking forward to hearing your presentation today. And then we also have Maurice Karageorgis. He's an MEN lead AP. He also has over 17 years of experience as a regional manager, application engineer at Lutron Electronics, where he is still working. Maurice brings a wealth of experience in delivering, sales, technical training, other types of support within the electrical industry and electronics manufacturing industry. He has a bachelor's degree from United States Naval Academy, and master's from Old Dominion University. So he specializes in control system engineering. So we're glad to have him here. He's a dedicated advocate for the automation technology and his application in both commercial and residential solutions. So welcome, Maurice. Glad that you're here. Join us. So I'm going to turn this just over to for introduction. I'm going to bring on Josh Pelham. He's with Better Bricks, and let him talk a little bit about the initiative and who NIA is and who Better Bricks is. Josh?
Thanks, Dan. Really appreciate it. Yeah, I'll be very quick. So quick introduction. I just want to explain NIA, Better Bricks. I am a strategic accounts manager at the Northwest Energy Efficiency Alliance. Part of my work is managing NIA's Better Bricks program with a wonderful team of other folks at NIA. For those of you unfamiliar with NIA, we're a nonprofit organization that works to affect market transformation through the acceleration and adoption of energy efficient products, services, and practices. We are an alliance of over 140 utilities and energy efficiency organizations that work on behalf of more than 13 million energy consumers across the Pacific Northwest. If you want to learn more about NIA, neea.org is our website. Check it out. As you can see on the screen, Better Bricks is right under that. The Better Bricks platform is a NIA initiative, as Dan mentioned, that is brought to you by those very same utilities and organizations. So to be successful in our market transformation efforts, NIA manages a portfolio of programs that are designed to leverage the power of markets, including those that have buildings within them. But as we all know, buildings consist of a multitude of sometimes very complex systems. So for our commercial buildings programs or programs around technologies or practices that are relevant to commercial buildings, those are all contained within the Better Bricks platform. These are really best understood and served as a cohesive set of integrated systems, and therefore that comprises the Alliance's Better Bricks platform. What is a platform exactly? This is a resource brought to you by the Northwest Energy Efficiency Alliance and the wonderful organizations that fund us. And this is designed to help commercial building professionals use energy efficiency to gain a competitive edge in the market. So some of these folks that we work to serve include building owners, property managers, building operators and facility staff, architects, designers, engineers, contractors. Basically, if you design, build, manage, or operate a commercial building, Better Bricks partners with our utilities and energy efficiency organizations in Northwest to provide the tools and resources you need to incorporate efficiency into your building and reap those wonderful benefits for your business. So I just want to give a little bit of an explanation of what we do. You can find us at betterbricks.com. And the marketing team is really hard at work figuring out how to be the next big thing on TikTok. But for now, LinkedIn and YouTube is pretty much where we hang out. So you can find a lot of our content there, and go to betterbricks.com, sign up for our newsletter. This is the first in a series of webinars we're hoping to host over this year. Some future topics, these aren't concrete yet. We're looking at sequencing building upgrades, financing projects, all sorts of stuffs related to commercial buildings. But today we get to focus on the wonderful system that is lighting. So with that, I will turn it back over to you, Dan, or whoever would like to take it from here.
Thank you, Josh. I appreciate you coming on and talking about that. I'll just add a plug that betterbricks.com is one of the best single source locations for all things energy saving. If you haven't been on that website, you really should. You'll see it's just a great resource for, like I said, all things energy saving. All right, let's get started. So if it was only this easy, right? So today's webinar is part of our initiative to eliminate barriers to adoption of network lighting controls. Lighting controls cybersecurity is one of those barriers that we try to break down. And again, with most things that are barriers, most of it's about understanding and education. And so that's what we're going to be doing today, is hopefully giving you some additional information that will help you when you go out and talk to customers. We're committed to supplying information and resources to the Northwest market to aid in your understanding of connected lighting and related technologies. Just as Josh had mentioned, today we're focusing in on this. So today there isn't a universal cybersecurity standard for building systems, and including lighting control cybersecurity. But today we're going to have the speakers who are going to shed some light on this and offer insights into integrated controls, lighting control cybersecurity, which will be very helpful. It's a crucial topic that requires more understanding for effective communications with building owners and IT personnel. Is really what we're hoping you'll do, that will help you to engage more with the people that you need to in the building, the owners, IT personnel, anybody that you're installing a controls network for. So you'll notice that last bullet, that's really one of the I guess the scariest things, and one of the reasons that we see sometimes a slow adoption of the technology. So we don't want cybersecurity to be a problem in such that it stops people from using the technology. So I think with this additional education, and as we can educate the market, that will help in that. So every day it seems that a new network lighting control system or innovation seems to hit our desks, right? We see that all the time. If you're in this industry, you're constantly seeing everything about the new controls, which is great, isn't it? we're just seeing leaps and bounds, new technology coming through, new functions, new ability, all those things now happening with lighting controls. But these are all very interesting and encouraging, right, to the world of lighting controls and energy savings. They force us to stop and really look at how they integrate with the other IoT and systems in the building. As noted here, the lost energy savings from the delayed adoption of NLC is significant. And you'll see in the next couple slides why that's the case. So it's important that we know how to navigate the IoT security when installing integrated lighting controls in our building. So what are the risks? What we need to know, obviously the risks are great, right? If you're not careful. As you can read here, the risks are rising and the stakes are high. Now that doesn't mean we shouldn't use the technology. It doesn't keep us from using other technology. We just get used to using it. We learn more about it. It gets added to our day-to-day, uses. So as we'll see, connecting lighting will play an important role in the increased energy savings in the country. So as part of our services to customers, we really need to know how to protect business owners for cybercrime through the lighting system. And these numbers are just getting higher. And I know Levin will talk a little bit about that today, but we can do something about it. So look what DOE is forecasting. They're forecasting the high demand for connected lighting moving forward. They're seeing that as one of the key ways to save energy and one of the major areas in the country that will actually save energy. So see what they're forecasting. That's a lot of savings. So it's not just lighting. We're going to see more and more of lighting and lighting control. So however, as lighting and other systems are becoming more connected, they also become more vulnerable to potential cyber attacks, don't they? So that's what we really want you to learn today, is a little bit about that, how to negate that, and how to have those conversations with the correct people, when you're doing an install. So let's get on with it. We're going to have, we have two sections that we're going to talk about today, two main sections. Section one will be presented by Maurice, and it's really how to communicate IT considerations and to customers, and also to understand what those are. And hopefully you'll learn some best practices and how to have those conversations and have some takeaways there. And we'll talk about that later, but we'll also be leaving you with some resources that will help as well. And then the second half of it, the second session, we're going to have Levin will talk about a review of the Design Lights Consortium site, what they're doing, their IT requirements and protocols, and then also how to design around the uncertainty about IT concerns. So first off, I'm going to go ahead and turn this over to Maurice, and he'll start us through section one. Maurice?
Morning, everyone. Welcome to the session. I'm happy to be here. I'm very excited to engage with you guys about this topic. It's a growing topic. It's really important for the evolution of lighting control systems. Again, I work as a systems applications engineer for Lutron Electronics about 2 decades. One of the big things I do daily is engage with customers and our different sales teams and channel partners around pre-sales concepts that people want to know about our products. They particularly do want to know about our products in this space of cybersecurity. So I'm here to offer some perspective as a manufacturer on things that we have learned and things are good for us to know and be able to convey back to customers that buy our products in the space of cybersecurity. Next slide, please. Today, lighting control systems do some very basic functionalities, which maybe 10, 15 years ago were emerging needs. Now I think they're kind of standard status quo. They help you turn lights off when rooms are not occupied. They help you dim electric lighting in a space when there's plenty of sunlight to save energy. They give the ability for users in the space to tune the lighting for the right level for what the task is. And they allow you to trim some high-end energy output consumption from lighting that may not be needed. That's kind of the baseline of what lighting control systems do today, driven by codes and just general adoption of best practices. We're really in the next phase where lighting control systems, because of these advancements in technologies, can start to do really more interesting things beyond the base code requirements and energy requirements of occupancy, daylighting, and personal control. They can start to give you some really interesting insights into your system. People before COVID wanted to know how their building was operating, what spaces were being used. After COVID, I think they want to know the same things, but for different reasons. They're trying to figure out how to change how their spaces get used. Some people want to get people back in fully. Some people want to get back in hybrid. It's more dynamic today than it was before COVID. So people really want to know more about their buildings, maybe than they ever did. They want other systems to potentially interact with their light control systems as well. Maybe HVAC, fire alarm, video. That interaction between systems also is a potential cybersecurity risk if the exchange of information is not managed and done well. So that's another, what sometimes is called a vector or a threat vector, that has to be considered. So all of these new features we'll talk about a little bit more, and I'll give you some perspective of what we see our customers are particularly concerned about with this next phase of features in light control systems. Next slide, please. So some of the things that are now offered today is very exciting, but also introduces some threats. The ability to have really good, intelligent offsite control of your system. If you're not on site, this gives you the advantage to control it offsite, to make quick changes that were not planned or were unscheduled. It also allows other entities to engage with your system offsite for troubleshooting, for remote diagnostics. It gives the ability to take a light control system that was installed with a certain amount of capabilities on day one of the building and move it forward. The best analogy seems to resonate with people is the Tesla idea that when you buy the car, it keeps on getting updates, it gets new features. So it's an asset for the building that improves over time versus just being static and delayed and aged as the building gets older. The integration with other systems as well, which we mentioned, adds a lot of new features and capabilities, but we also have to manage how these things happen. And then data collection and monitoring will give you really, really interesting insights, particularly because luminaire level lighting control really pushes the ability to control down to the smallest controllable element in the space, which in a light control system is the lighting. And there's a lot of density of lighting in a space. There's a lot of expanding points of control that can give you information as well on a far more granular level than you ever had maybe a decade ago. Next slide, please. So why is offsite control important? You not only can make changes to your building that you didn't know you need to make changes, but it gives you the ability to improve the light control system over time, figure out what's not working and why you think it's not working, which 10 years ago was difficult. A manufacturer had to bring a technician on site who had to interact with the system locally. There might be delays in getting that technician there. And a lot of different building types are used for, functional performance of a company, and a lot of building types are used for revenue generating activities. So any delays in getting the light control system working correctly impacts all those factors that are important to customers. 10 years ago, you tried to be as fast as you can to get there to help out. Today, we have really expanded the capabilities to figure out why the light control system is not doing what you expect it to do remotely. And there's been advancements to do that in a very secure way, but there's also unsecure ways to do that as well. And you see here an example of a school that might need to change its operation day because of a snow day or an unscheduled event. Another place we see this is convention centers. That kind of customer, they make a lot of changes to their buildings weekly for sure, sometimes daily, because they have so many other customers coming out of the convention center. They definitely need the power of making remote changes to the system. And anytime you start talking about remote changes, offsite access to a system, that makes IT departments start to cringe. So that's usually what prompts the dialogue with IT departments of, so I hear there's offsite access to your system. How are we going to do that? I'm going to tell you how I allow it. Sometimes the conversations go that way. And sometimes they want to know what you have put in place and know details about it so they can analyze it. Next slide, please. So in the journey of using more and more connected lighting systems, because they truly do offer a lot of increased potential for energy savings and new features and benefits that we didn't have 10 years ago, you definitely have to start engaging with IT departments, because a connected system means an IT department is going to want to know how it connects, why it connects, how it will connect. What we've definitely seen emerge in the last 5-6 years is this idea of an IT security questionnaire. And it's something that is delivered by the end user to the manufacturer of the light control products. There's no standard form for it. There's no standard delivery for it. Some customers have in-house IT security questionnaires they've created themselves. We've actually also seen a growth in large customers using third-party vendors to generate, manage, maintain, process, and collect the IT security questionnaires, so they're more automated and uniform and streamlined. These IT security questionnaires are really fascinating because they all have a little bit in common on what they want to know about your lighting control system, but they also reflect things that are important to one customer compared to another. And I would often say they really reflect the deepest, darkest fears of the organization if they use your lighting control system about what they're most concerned about. So they're very, very diverse, dynamic, varied. They're not standardized at all. And because of that, they can often take 1 to 2 weeks to complete. They will ask a lot of questions that we may have in publicly available documentation. They may ask questions or want to know about, how we do business or things about our products that we could tell them, but they're not in the public domain. And they also may want to know about how you do business and the products that you make that we're not in a position to disclose, because that's also a part of maintaining our own security posture by not disclosing that information. There's a funny quote, security through obscurity. So the less you know about something, you have a little bit of some potential security capabilities by not disseminating too much knowledge about how you do things. That's also an aged and old way of thinking about some of these technologies in the world of cybersecurity. So some of those things that's not appropriate for anymore. Next slide, please. So here's a short list of some of the emerging topics that we have seen in security questionnaires. You can see it's very, very diverse. It's no longer just, do you have an Ethernet connection on your hardware? It's a lot of other things. End users, owners, they're concerned about the information your system may collect. They're concerned about things like personally identifiable information. You'll hear the acronym PII. Medical customers tend to be concerned about a version called EPHI, which is protected health information. And as that industry tries to streamline the movement of personal health information around medical entities, they've tried to make the movement of information electronic in nature. That also makes it a potential cybersecurity target as well. So would a lighting control system contain medical information? Don't think so. We also wouldn't really contain financial data either, but they want to know that. So these, reflect concerns they have about personal identifiable information, medical information, financial information. There's also been a lot of laws put into the world where your data is your data, and large entities like the European Union have said your data is yours, and any manufacturer that collects it has to be in a position to get rid of it at your request. So that has dramatically changed the landscape of what you do with this kind of information. December 2022, we had a kind of a revolution in the technology space. The idea of ChatGPT came out, artificial intelligence, and almost within 2 months, security questionnaires came in and wanted to know if we were using generative AI. Customers want to know if you're really committed to cybersecurity. Do you train your own people about cybersecurity? It would, stand to say, if you truly care about cybersecurity, your products you deliver to customers, you care about internally to your organization. Do you participate in certification and assessments that are well known in the industry? Do you hold yourself to a own level of performance? If you do, then you probably have processes in place to determine how risky an event is. You have plans in place to manage or mitigate against it. You're constantly tracking new emerging threats every day, and then you're also reporting on it. You're having some accountability for what you experience and how you're managing to it. They used to only care about if you had a wired connection to your system. They now care about a lot of the wireless protocols, what you built them on top of, how you manage security on the wired and wireless protocols, and do you use encryption in how you communicate? And then do you participate in well-known standards in the industry? NIST comes up a lot. National Institute of Science and Technologies, they have a lot of standards out there that are recognized as best practices. They also care about if your hardware is becoming more capable, if you update the firmware in the hardware, is it signed and secured? Meaning, do you have methods in place so that no one can just connect to your hardware and put malicious or rogue firmware in the hardware, make it do devious things on the network? So, 10 years ago, security questionnaires didn't really exist. 5 years ago, security questionnaires were very, very limited. And in the last couple of years, they become very, very diverse, way beyond, what cable connects to your hardware. Next slide, please. So because these new technologies are really, really interesting, you have to be aware that daily collection and monitoring is both asked for by customers, but also it's a concern because the connected system is what delivers it. And they want to know about data collection and monitoring because a lot of new technologies are built around using the data collected to help you improve the space. So with a better understanding of space utilization also comes, how is this information getting out of your light control system somewhere else? So it's a lot of value to it, but IT departments have concerns about this feature. Next slide. With the ability to remotely connect to lighting control systems for improved diagnostics, to provide patches because there's a bug in the system that the manufacturer needs to improve on, or there's a vulnerability threat that just emerged today, and we have a hardware that might be affected by it, applying a security patch is also, 3 really good and valuable reasons to have remote diagnostics capabilities in your system. Your system may only support that if you come locally on site to connect to the system. It might support it if it's connected off-site. There's immense value in the product being able to have a secure way to be connected to off-site, but you definitely have to coordinate with the IT department. Some customers, even in the world of connected light control systems, only allow you to connect to a server that they set up on site with credentials so they know exactly who's coming in and out of the customer network. And that's a very particular accommodation that some customers want. So offsite connectivity can show up in a couple different manners depending on what the IT department allows, and each manner or method has a little bit of give and take on pros and cons that needs to be talked about with the IT department. Next slide. Integration with other systems has always been a valuable feature and grows and grows and grows as more because there's more and more building systems, more and more technologies in our buildings. And that creates more desire for these systems to interact with each other and share data. They might be sharing data between 2 core building systems. The core building systems might be sharing it to a dashboard. This also is viewed as a potential threat, like I mentioned earlier, to IT departments, not just sharing information outside of the building, but sharing information within the building. If one system is more vulnerable than the others, it could potentially introduce different types of security attacks in the most vulnerable part of the building system. So IT departments want to know how systems talk to each other. A very common building interoperability language has been BACnet for a long time. BACnet was always designed to be simple and easy to deploy into very complex hardware, but the simplest type of hardware as well that might be in a pump or motor. Very small components tend to not have the ability to support cybersecurity protocols, best practices. So BACnet as a methodology has also gone through an evolution where they've attempted to deploy a secure connect or a cybersecurity focused version of BACnet, but that takes some time to deploy into the marketplace. So communication between building systems is also scrutinized by IT departments, and protocols and technologies that are system to system within our building are also evolving to support these needs. Next slide, please. IT departments also want to know, where's this hardware going to live? Is it going to live on my network that I have already created in my building? Some are okay with it, some are not. Some want it on a separate physical network. They don't want any of the cabling moving between the light control hardware to actually connect to any of the cabling that they already have set up for the existing system. Some will allow it, but they will also section it off with these concepts called virtual LANs or VLANs, where the light control system and the company or the corporate network are physically connected together, but they've got additional software features that have sectioned off or contain certain types of traffic to only exist on a portion of the network. There's quite a few strategies. We've also seen the emergence of, I want the connected light control system. I don't want to connect it to my network at all, but I still want to connect it. So there's a growth in the use of LTE modems to connect right to the light control system so that it has connectivity. It is not interacting with the corporate network. Some customers, though, also see that as a vulnerability as well. And they say no LTE modem as well. So you can see IT departments have very different philosophies on what they will or what will not accept. Next slide, please. The cabling that moves around the building, they also want to be aware of that cabling as well. Mostly the structured cabling is what they're used to, but this opens up the idea of, how many IP addresses does your light control system need to be reserved in my network? Do I have enough network drops going from our existing infrastructure to your light control system? I would say ideally, the less IP addresses you need reserved from them, the better. The more that you are asking of them, the more points of interaction with their network infrastructure they see as potential threats. So maybe less is better, but every IT department has a different philosophy on the amount of points of connection into your system that are acceptable to their philosophy. Next slide, please. So where does this leave us? We talked about the fact that the customer IT groups have changed dramatically in what they want to know about your lighting control system. They've also want to know about what you do as a lighting control company. They want to know how you manage security internally yourself. Hopefully you can, a manufacturer can be as transparent about that as they can, but if they also can't tell you too much about their own best security practices, because that's part of the security philosophy. I think they want to see manufacturers that invest in security up front. It's something called a secure life cycle. So as they build a new product, they're thinking about security. It's not something they add in later, which building from the beginning is always better than adding it in later. What I have found in doing this for a long time is having a conversation earlier than you think you even need to have to with the IT department is much better for the project than to have it later. And unfortunately, IT departments normally become engaged too late in the project when there's finally an ask for the connection of the lighting control system to a network. And that unfortunately happens often, and that's par for the course. But getting better at this means engaging IT departments earlier, because they all have very diverse needs and requests. And then setting the right expectations that, your lighting control manufacturer is happy to engage on these questions. They have some things publicly available. They may have to research and give the manufacturer a fair amount of time to respond to the questionnaire. 1 to 2 weeks, I think, is industry standard for responding to these types of requests. Next slide. I think that's probably near the end of my section. Yeah. I'll monitor chat. If you guys have any questions, you want to throw it in there. As we talked about, I'll let you guys move on to the rest of the presentation.
Thanks, Maurice. That was great. Love that information. Thank you. And now we have our second speaker. I'm going to bring on Levin, who will talk a little bit about DLC and some of the different standards that they have. Levin, I'm going to turn this right over to you.
Thanks, Dan. So next slide. Today, I'll talk about DLC's role in the cybersecurity of network lighting controls. I've been with DLC since 2016, when I helped launch the qualified products list of network lighting controls. As you probably know, the Design Lights Consortium, or DLC, is a nonprofit organization that promotes high-quality, energy-efficient commercial lighting products in collaboration with utility energy efficiency programs, manufacturers, and other stakeholders across the U.S. and Canada. Next. All Pacific Northwest electric energy efficiency programs are members of the DLC through their membership with NEA. Next. And everyone is welcome to use our resources, such as reports for members, next, and events, including webinars and in-person gathering. Next. The DLC is mainly known for our solid-state lighting list, or SSL list, that averages around 3,800 product views per day, as you can see in column 2. For this webinar, we'll focus on the list of network lighting controls in column 3, that's a bit smaller with 67 products at present. We also have a list of horticultural lighting products for indoor farming and a list of night sky friendly outdoor lighting products to serve municipal outdoor lighting ordinances to mitigate light pollution at night. Next, click again, please. Oh, that worked. Good. To recap, the DLC is a nonprofit organization that maintains lists of qualified products. These lists are used by many energy efficiency programs to administer rebates and incentives. To do that, we create policies such as technical requirements describing how products can get qualified to receive those incentives. Whenever possible, our policies refer to existing standards. Next. The DLC does not create standards, does not test products, and does not offer any rebates or incentives directly, and does not sell any lighting products. Next. There are many different types of lighting controls. One more time, there we go, available on the market. And our technical requirements document serves as a filter to identify systems that meet all of the DLC requirements. This helps manufacturers design for a single requirement rather than trying to meet different specs from the many different utilities across the US and Canada that all rely on the DLC list. Next. Various incentive programs pay different amounts in different ways, but many of them use the DLC requirements to choose which products qualify. All of the NLC systems on the DLC list can support these strategies to provide the right light at the right time without wasting energy on light that nobody needs. Some systems also support additional optional control functions, such as personal control and demand response. The top 7 requirements have been in place since the NLC list was launched, and the bottom 2, energy monitoring and cybersecurity, were added more recently. Next. The result of all that is this DLC list of network lighting control systems that are eligible for rebates and incentives. As you may know, you can use the filters on the left to narrow down the selection in various ways, such as by manufacturer, ease of implementation, wired versus wireless, etc. Next. You may be wondering why DLC cares about cybersecurity. Utilities are extremely risk averse, and many programs do not want to pay incentives for products that might cause trouble for their customers. In addition, many building owners are rightfully concerned about cybersecurity, and this concern has often been used as a reason to remove lighting controls from projects. Next. Here are a few examples of publicly disclosed hacks. Fortunately, they did not include network lighting controls, although the Target hack back in 2013 involved HVAC rooftop units. NLCs are hard enough to sell already. If they got onto a cybersecurity board of shame like this, they would be even less popular. And so since February 2022, we've made sure that all systems on the DLC network lighting controls list have conducted due diligence to address cybersecurity using one or more third-party certifications. We've done this to help protect the credibility of the DLC brand, of the efficiency programs that use our list, and of trade allies who rely on the DLC list to choose systems that qualify for incentives. We recognize various third-party certifications that have been developed to address the needs of various types of projects. On the DLC list online, you can see which products have attained which certifications. That can help decision makers choose certifications and products that manage cybersecurity risk in a way that is appropriate for each situation. To summarize why the DLC cares about cybersecurity, we want to qualify
Eleven, you've been muted.
the whole time?
No, just probably 15 seconds or so.
Oh, I'm sorry. Sorry about that. Let me start this slide over again.
Appreciate it.
Okay, so let's see. To summarize why DLC cares about cybersecurity, we want to qualify network lighting control systems that are developed and operated using best practices in cybersecurity. That supports energy efficiency programs in providing more extensive incentives and rebates for network lighting controls in order to see more network lighting control systems installed on more projects. All of this together driving accelerated technology adoption and energy savings. And this chart shows the number of DLC listed network lighting control systems with
It's happened again, Levin. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I don't know if something keeps getting
wow.
bumped, but
Yeah, I thought I was being very careful not to bump that. Okay. Yeah, so this chart shows the number of DLC listed NLC systems with different cybersecurity certifications. As you can see, IOXT and UL MCV 1376 are by far the most popular. These two certifications were both developed specifically to address DLC qualified network lighting control products to deliver an appropriate level of security with appropriate due diligence for many NLC projects. Next, I'll tell you a little bit about each of these two popular certifications. The IOXT standard is based on 8 principles. Next, shown here in bullets that map back to US and European regulations in the 3 general categories of security, upgradability, and transparency. Device profiles are developed for the unique security requirements of various devices and markets, and multiple labs provide testing. The IOXT standard applies different profiles to different devices. This provides an easy way to compare the cybersecurity needs of a residential consumer product, such as a smart speaker or nanny cam, versus a commercial grade product that needs more sophisticated security, as Maurice was just telling us more about. A simple room level NLC system for a small commercial space with a sole proprietor might get by with a consumer grade product, but larger projects get more complicated. The IOXT standard applies different profiles to different devices. Sorry, so then this is the, sorry, just getting a little bit confused. Yeah, so this is the base profile that all the consumer products used. And if we go one more, a few years ago, when the DLC cybersecurity requirements were being developed, IOXT developed a profile specifically for network lighting control gateway devices in commercial buildings. And so some of the early qualified systems got the IOXT certification using the consumer grade base profile, but before this NLC profile was published in August 2021. So now newer systems have gotten certified with this more rigorous profile, and by August 2024, all systems will have been upgraded to the NLC profile. Next, so here's a side-by-side comparison where you can see that the main additions are in column 2, secured interfaces, and especially in column 4, security by default, that a lot of them are blank in the base profile, and there's considerably more of those requirements over in the NLC profile on the right. And there's a blow up in case you're interested in those details. And then let's go on to UL. UL has developed just like IOXT, they've developed a compliance profile specifically for network lighting controls that uses a combination of the silver and gold level requirements. Next slide. And so then they have this a general service that you can get delivered at one of those 5 different levels. And then they developed a version for network lighting controls that's a combination of the gold and silver levels. And next slide. 7 different aspects of cybersecurity are assessed by UL 1376, and they're shown in gray. And then these topics are mapped to various standards in the UK, US, Europe, and global telecom. So given that most NLC products use either IOXT or MCV 1376, you may be wondering why some products use a wide range of other certifications. The answer is mainly about how the field has evolved over time. I began exploring cybersecurity for the DLC back in 2017. And at that time, neither IOXT nor MCV 1376 existed. The main certifications available have been developed for other types of products. For instance, the 62443 series of standards was developed for industrial automation and control in automated factories. By the way, some of these standards were developed by one organization and then adopted by other organizations over time. For instance, 62443 was created by the ISA International Society of Automation, and then adopted by the IEC International Electrotechnical Commission, and then by ANSI, the American National Standards Institute. The other standards with multiple acronyms have similar stories. Anyway, after the big cybersecurity scare of 2013 with rooftop units at Target, IEC 62443 became popular for HVAC products. And a few NLC products have adopted it, probably to address the market in automated industrial facilities. The UL 2900 standards were developed by UL and then published as standards in the US and Canada. 2900-1 applies to general network connectable products that include network lighting controls and a lot of other things. The UL 2900-2 family has specific standards for healthcare, one for industrial control, and one for building and life safety. A few NLC products who were early adopters in cybersecurity used the -1 general standard, but then after that, UL developed MCV 1376 with the NLC profile to better serve the needs of most NLC manufacturers. Going back to the list of less popular certifications, next there's ISO 27001. ISO is a global standards organization based in Switzerland. Some global corporations use ISO standards to manage their supply chains, such as ISO 9000 for quality management. The standards provide guidelines for processes for how to run a business in a way so that all organizations in a supply chain can rely on each other. The manufacturers that use this standard probably got the word from their global headquarters applied to everyone in their supply chain. Some organizations also use the companion standard ISO 20017 that applies to cloud services. The SOC 2 Service Organization Controls Report is defined by the nonprofit American Institute of Certified Public Accountants, or AICPA. It provides guidance for auditors who are certified public accountants to report on an organization's ability to meet its public commitments related to security, privacy, and availability. The reports are customized around the claims that each organization makes. So for instance, if they only make a few small claims, then the report will be fairly short. We're almost done, just two more. The Intertech Cyber Assured Service, next slide, was developed for consumer products and applies to two DLC-listed NLC systems that are both room-based systems. In a small installation with no outside connections, and then they might not need commercial level complexity. Next. And finally, two of the systems with ISO 27001 and ISO 27017 also use the CSA STAR registry that maintains a list of providers of cloud services that meet various standards for cloud cybersecurity. An NLC manufacturer that offers cloud services with their NLC system can get a listing on this registry to show publicly which cloud cybersecurity certifications they have. Next. And that's probably more than you wanted to know about all those different.
Hey, Levin, you bumped again.
Ah, okay. So that's so the main thing. Oh, let's go back one slide. Anyway, the main thing to remember about those two charts, about this chart in general, is that IOXT and UL 1376 are the two popular certifications, and they were specifically tailored for the needs of most commercial NLC products. And now, next slide. If by chance you want in more details, I recorded a webinar that's available on demand that reviews all of the cybersecurity certifications that DLC recognizes. There's even a few extra ones I didn't mention because no one has used them yet, but they are recognized. And also there's an 11-page overview on the designlights.org website. And that's it. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Levin. I appreciate that you narrowed it down to those couple of certifications, making it a little easier to really get into it and more into the weeds later on. And with all those certifications, it could get a little bit daunting. So I appreciate you doing that. Great job. Thanks. So we're at the very end here, and in just a moment, we'll get to Q&A. But what I do want to do is make sure that everybody on this call knows that we will be sending out some resources so that everybody has something they could take away, and if they want to learn a little bit more about it. But also, as an example, we're going to send you 8 tips for lighting cybersecurity. So some things that you might be able to use in your next conversation with any of your customers when you're talking about IT security when it comes to the lighting control system. So we're going to open up for questions, and you can put it in the chat, or you can, I think we're going to unmute. So if you want, if you don't have a chat, if you want to just come unmute yourself and ask questions for our two panelists, that would be great.
Question for you gentlemen. How would a specifier or contractor follow up and get more information about an individual system or product?
Bruce, I will answer that as a manufacturer. Fundamentally, anything that we would generate would have something we call a security statement, and that's been a big evolution in our technical documentation. A lot of our newer products that have been built with security in mind from their inception carry with them a security statement, and it gives distinct security information about practices related to the product's development, operation, and maintenance. And that's usually at a kind of product level. We also offer what we call IT implementation guides, but other manufacturers will offer similar things. It's a longer document, which gives you everything you need to know about the successful implementation of the product from a cybersecurity perspective, and fundamentally tells you what network resources the product needs to access and why. Things that are not super exciting to talk about, but types of IP-based traffic, ports they might need to access, and although it might be boring, it's very useful for IT departments to know exactly the resources a product is accessing and why it needs to access it, so they can develop their own opinion on whether that's a problem or not as the profile of the product is. But fundamentally, look for any manufacturer today. Any manufacturer that can take cybersecurity seriously will have some type of security documentation available, at least to some extent, in the public domain, so that you can get this information early. And I encourage you to look for this information and then distribute to your own customers so that they're aware of what resources are available for individual manufactured products.
That's great. Thanks, Maurice. And as you mentioned, get in early. Make sure you have that conversation at the beginning of the process. Any other questions? We'll give it just a moment here. We'll make sure that everybody has the email addresses to our two speakers. So if there's anything that comes up after the webinar today, I'm sure they would be happy to answer them for you or give you some direction. So again, I want to thank Levin and Maurice. Excellent presentations. I learned a lot today. I appreciate it. I know there's probably a lot more to learn, but this has been very, very helpful. Hope all on this call also felt the same way. So just one last slide. If you want to take a moment, if you want to write down some of their contact information, I'll know that we'll also likely be sending out as part of the presentation and some of the resources that we have. But we appreciate everybody that came on today, and hopefully you'll have some takeaways that you can take back and use in your daily business. Again, thank you, everyone, and have a good rest of the day.
Thank you all.
Thanks.
Have a great day, everyone.